Hi, I'm Dave. I'm an addict.
Hey, Dave.
Just want to take a moment of silence to ease some of this anxiety and these stream of thoughts in my head. Thanks. My name is Dave. I'm an addict, and I made 2 meetings today. The first one was on the second step, and then I left and I went upstate and made another meeting, and it was on the second step. And what stands out for me is that when I'm in alignment with spiritual principles and I'm participating in this process, there's a lot of synchronicities and coincidences that occur in my life. It's a lot of messages that make it hard for me to doubt that there's some power that's working in my life and in the lives of others. There's a power, right, and an energy in these rooms that could take an angry, resentful, low self-worth feeling person like myself, come in here for 90 minutes, and somewhere within those 90 minutes, I leave feeling confident, reassured, encouraged, and I lose the desire to use whatever it is that I'm obsessing over in this moment. And it helps to carry me into the next moment, you know? I came in here with a set of beliefs that were very destructive. I believed that if I had enough money, if I had enough women, if I had enough clout, enough popularity, that I would be restored to sanity, that I would be happy, that I would be content, that I would feel whole and complete in this process. And as a result of that, I've chased and I've sought to acquire all these things that society equates with success. And as a result, I've failed miserably to feel at ease with myself, right? And I always share this, right, because this was like a turning point in my life. 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm full of self-pity, anger, resentments, fear. My kids were a burden in my life, right? I couldn't stand my father. I hated my mother. Couldn't stand my wife. And I couldn't stand myself. And I went into this duffel bag of writings that I had, journaling of when I was incarcerated, and I came across a list of all the things I wanted to acquire and experience when I came home. And I realized that I was in the midst of having all of these things, and a lot more that came to pass, and I was miserable. And the misery I felt was the disconnection from this power that I felt when I was alone in this cell and I had no outlets, right? There were no women to indulge in. There were no drugs. There was no telephone to call whenever I wanted. I couldn't eat when I wanted to, right? And I broke down in that cell one day waiting for mail. And the mail didn't come for a few days. And the loneliness and the self-pity and the rage and the anger that I felt broke me down. I mean, it debilitated me to the point where the only thing I could do was cry and ask, God, if you're real, please help me. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And my pleading turned into tears of gratitude and a sense of warmth and peace and comfort. And And in that instant, I felt that connection and that love and that power, that presence that I feel in these rooms at times, man, when my spirit is low. I've come to believe, not only through evidence and seeing you guys, right? Because I believe a lot of times that this should have worked for you. And sometimes I doubt that this is going to work for me. I didn't understand, right, how making coffee was going to help me. I'm talking about the restoration to sanity here, right? I didn't understand how doing service and helping fix up a meeting and coming 20 minutes early and 20 minutes late, I had shit to do, right? That was more important than this process for me. And it was this obsession and this compulsion, right? Clean, not use it, that was driving me to make chaotic, unhealthy decisions in my life. I was driven by fear. I was driven by this urgency that I had to make up for lost time. I had to catch up somehow, right? There was things that I was missing because time was running out for me. The world was ending any day. This was my beliefs. So I wanted to experience things in one swoop. I wanted to become a guru in here overnight. I had the information, right? And I could spit it out. But there was no transformation. And I've come to understand that this is a process of transformation, not information. And when I look up the word sanity, and I like words, right? And I like to look up the root word. Where does the word come from and what was its original meaning? And the word sanity simply means healthy. Serenity, what does it say on these back of these keychains, right? It says clean and serene. I can't get no cleaner after 30, 45 days, right? And I always share this too, like I had some clean time, I was making meetings, and I had a bright idea that a couple of $1,000s was gonna fix this pain that I felt. And I proceeded to go and rob a former employer of mine. And as a result, I was sentenced to 9 years in prison, going to meetings, obsessing, not doing the work, not even realizing a lot. I wasn't even in denial sometimes. I just wasn't aware of the underlying stuff that was going on. I had no idea that my thinking was the actual problem. I thought I just needed to stay away from drugs, man, and I was going to be okay. I just need enough money. My pops needs to be who I want him to be. You know, my mother has to be who I want her to be. The moment I try to control and change you and situations, I'm insane. The insanity, the chaos, the unmanageability of my life, the fears, the low self-esteem, all these feelings that drove me to use in the first place come right back. When I look at the word powerlessness today, I look at it more as like not having control. It's when I'm caught up in my obsessive thinking, right? And I begin to act on these obsessive thoughts, the compulsiveness, right? My power diminishes to do the right thing, to make healthy decisions in my life. So I have less power when I'm doing shit that my mind tells me I should be doing. You should have did this. You should have went there. Hey, you ain't do no push-ups today. You're going to make a meeting? You're too tired to make a meeting. You got to work tomorrow. Yo, then why she ain't text me? Why she text me 5 minutes after I text her? Is she seeing somebody? Like, why is my pops all this noise? And then the other voices, right, that say, you shouldn't even be thinking like that. Like, calm the fuck down. No, easy does it. No, you bugging out, bro. You need to call your sponsor. That voice is also insanity, right? So now I'm going through this big freaking committee in my head, right? And then I start acting on this shit. And guess what? At the end of the day, I'm drained of energy. I have no power to do anything. I want to fight people. I want to curse people out. Don't call me, right? And I want to act out. I'm seeking relief, right? I'm looking to be powered up and energized by artificial means. Because the power and the energy and the love and the peace, right? And the kindness and the compassion that I feel when my spirit is thriving is not me. I'm inspired to act according to spiritual principles. I don't have to work on my character defects. I have to work on my spirituality, not focus on my defects. Because when I focus on my defects, I feel powerless. I feel drained. I beat myself up. I did it again. What the fuck is the use? I'm not going to call him and tell him I did this shit again. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I failed again. Reinforcing that old belief system, right? So what I do when I struggle, I call another recovering addict. I call my sponsors. I'm in 2 fellowships, all right? I'm doing work in another fellowship. So I have sponsors in each fellowship, right? And I call them every day. And I call my support group every day. I call my father every day. And you know, I always reference my father because my father, let me tell you something, I love my father, right? Mm-hmm. And I realized today through taking an inventory that I always wanted my father's acceptance and recognition, right? I wanted my father to be close to my father. And I realized today that it's hard to develop a relationship with a kid who's rebellious, who's angry, right? Who's unwilling to allow another person to love them and be where they're at. Because I wanted him to be who I wanted him to be. Leave your wife, right? Abandon your life. It's about me. What you doing with her? You're supposed to be buying me cars and shit, Nintendos and, you know, live my life. But I want to say that the restoration, right, and this process, this time around for me, is something that I nurture because I'm afraid. I'm not, you know, I don't want to use, right? But I'm afraid to be angry. I'm afraid to be resentful. I'm afraid to be sitting in a pity pot. Woe is me. My first 4th step, right? I'm going to break anonymity. I don't care. Now, I did with Willie, right? This was like 21 years ago. And I remember we sat in front of Chemical Bank. It was called Chemical Bank at the time. And I'm reading this stuff, right? And I had all these pages, and he stood quiet, right? And he said, there's a lot of self-pity. I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? I wanted him to fix me. I wanted him to give me the answer, right? He had to give me the answer. And what I'm trying to say, and I'm tying this into the restoration process, right? Like, even at that moment, I was being restored and seeds were being planted, right? And if you don't get anything else that I say today, I want to emphasize this, right? If I'm complaining, if I'm talking about people, if I'm judging you, right? If I'm trying to change you, if I'm trying to change my circumstances, right? I'm living in insanity. There's no peace. There's no tranquility. There's no compassion. There's no power in that. All that does for me is drain me of power. And when I have no power, I'm susceptible to make diseased up decisions. And guess what? They're not even decisions. Check this shit out. They're impulsive actions. As soon as I feel something, I just say this shit, I act this shit, right? And then, check it out, it's like a high, right? Because I get high off rage, right? I think I'm Rocky still, right? I think I can still throw a hook. I was punching the bag the other day and my shoulder still hurts. That was 6 months ago, right? So check it, right? So, I'm serious. It's the impulsivity, right? That's this disease, this addiction that... I'm going to give you a quick example. The other day, I told my wife, listen, I got X amount on my card. And that's all I got till my next pay period because I'm unmanageable with my finances still, right? And the very next day, I go with my man Tony, right, to purchase a $1 menu meal and my card declined. Check it out. $2 order. The worthlessness, the shame, right? Because, you know, money is attached to some type of self-worth sometimes, right? I get that shit confused, self-esteem and ego, right? So, you know, she said, I'm sorry. And I'm like, what? You know, well, let me transfer some money, you know? Ain't no transferring here, you know what I'm saying? So, I go in and I ain't got it, right? So I was like, I left with my tail between my legs with a $2 order. Yo, fuck me out of here, man. So immediately, I wanted to call my wife or my kid's mother, right? Because we're kind of separated, but still together, separated type of thing, right? And so the first thing I wanted to do was call, and usually what I do is, yo, didn't I tell you not to spend? And I'll just throw up. So I calmed down, right? I prayed on it, and I'm going home, right? And I called and I said, yo, listen, did you buy something? Because I looked and I saw a purchase from, she's in Brooklyn, and I saw a purchase from Brooklyn. She goes, yeah, but that was Thursday, you know? It was like 4 days ago. And when I looked at the dates, they didn't take it out till that day, you know? So, but if I would have acted on that impulse, forget about it. You know what I mean? Like, it would have just set her back 20 steps. And the little bit of progress that I've made in my relationship with her, and the relationship with my father, and the relationship with people that I've strained and damaged in this process. You know what I mean? So, for me, the sanity comes when I take a second to act when I'm having these thoughts. And sometimes these thoughts are great ideas. I'd be like, yo, we're going to get rich off this shit, man. I'm telling you, this is it. And whenever things, right? Let me tell you something. A lot of poor decisions I made gave me a lot of rich experiences, right? But I'm afraid to make decisions today. And I made a commitment this time around that I wasn't going to make any decisions, any major ones anyway, right? In my first year. I shut down my social networks, right? Facebook, Instagram, all these different things, you know, because that was like an addiction, the instant gratification of the likes and the comments and the validation and the women inboxing me. And, you know, I'm this legend in my mind, right? And, so I had to withdraw from that, okay? I had to stop for a second and let that thing go for a minute. I took off the games, the words with friends and stuff like that from my phone because I'm doing some step work, right? And the step work that I'm doing requires a lot of writing. It requires a lot of sitting still. It requires a lot of sitting with myself. And I find myself distracted, you know? I'll get to it. Procrastination. Insanity. I've been down this road before, right? And what's happening is that I'm sitting there and I'm writing. And tears is part of restoring me to sanity. I'm going to close with this. I'm sitting in this room in rehab. I'm on women restriction because I was in love, you know. She was the one, right? I was a comedian because all the personas, right? All the images, all these different personalities came out once the drugs was put down, right? So I couldn't joke anymore because I was getting threatened to get kicked out, right? And I was on phone restriction because I was calling this girl who I was on a speaking band with on the rehab phones because I think I'm clever, right? And so I have no outlets once again. I'm forced to be with the person that I don't want to be with, right? And I'm in this room, and it's called the guard room, right? And I'm sitting there, and they got these big wall-to-wall windows, and I'm looking at the deer one morning, and I had this spiritual experience, right? And I started crying. There's something about nature for me. Water, squirrels, right? Like, just does something to me. I feel a connection, and the word sanity came out. And I work for sanitation, right? And I was like, sanity, sanitation, sanitize. And I started looking up these words, and it all means at its root, healthy, cleanliness. I said, damn. And the first step, I got a problem, right? And as a result of this problem, my life is chaotic, it's unmanageable, right? It's not because of y'all, it's because of this addiction, this disease. And the sanity is letting me know that the disease and the problem lies between these two temples. And there needs to be a clearing, a cleansing of the mind in the second step, which I've passed over with a minimum of concern over and over. And once this mind is cleansed and quieted enough so that this intuitive voice in me inspires me in spirit, inspiration in spirit, inspires me to act according to my higher power's will. And the humility that I feel, that is not my doing. The only thing I'm responsible for is sitting still long enough to quiet this noise so that I know intuitively what to do. Thanks for letting me share, guys.